Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. And today, let's talk about value add delivery and how critical it is to practice delivering value adds before you get into a conference room and sit across from a client. So why did we start value adds? Let's start at the very beginning. It's my favorite place to start. So a lot of times when we talk to financial advisors, we'd ask, how often do you meet with the clients? There's sort of this weird cadence, right? There's this unaccepted law of how frequently that you meet with clients. And so if you've gone to conferences and you've talked to different financial advisors that are out there, you know that a lot of people will tell you, oh, I meet with my clients every quarter, or I meet with them twice a year, semi-annually, or I meet with them annually, or I meet with them whenever the client has a need, they can call my office and get on my calendar. So we all kind of subscribe to this weird cadence, and then we conditioned all of these people out there that seek our services that is how we operate. And we didn't give it a lot of collective thought. The reason that we would meet quarterly back in the day is because before, the internet really took off and became mainstream for everyone, people got their statements on a quarterly basis. So you'd get a statement on a quarterly basis, and you'd always want to make sure that you're meeting with your clients around the same time that they were going to be receiving that statement. Now, why was that so critical? It was critical because that's normally when the client was being charged, when you were assessing fees for that client. So you'd always want to make sure that you brought them in and that you went over the statement, you were re-delivering value, you were reconfirming why they were working with you in most cases. And then it kind of went to the advisor that was mostly transactional. And if you have a few thousand clients, you're transactional. Don't get defensive. Don't get upset with me. Jamie, no. I provide all this unique custom service. I'm able to service thousands of clients. Just because you can only do a few hundred doesn't mean that I should be limited by that. Okay, fine. Deceive yourself, deceive me, deceive others, deceive your clients. I don't care. But the reality is you can't have a few thousand intimate, connected relationships. We're just not wired that way. If you look at civilization throughout history, how big were our villages? How big were our tribes? They weren't a few thousand people until modern times. In fact, most villages, most nomadic tribes and everything, they were about 150 people. And we can have really intimate, connected relationships with about 150 to 200 people. But once we get beyond those numbers, we just can't store all that information. And that is why sometimes you will recognize names because you see names inside of your CRM, you see them in your statements, you see them in the custodian, but you can't always put a face with that name. And that's an awful feeling. And sometimes you'll walk up into the lobby and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's who Bob Smith is. Now I got it. And it's not an insult. It's just how we are wired. It's just how our brain works. But if you think that you are the unicorn out there that can have a few thousand intimate relationships and remember every single one of them, you are lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself because we need to have just a few hundred relationships. Like there's so many laws and applications about why this is important. Because if you have a few thousand clients and you go look at your book of business and you apply the 80-20 rule to that, you're going to find that most of your revenue is coming from that top shelf anyways. And that top shelf are people that you remember, that you're connecting with on a real human level. And they are the relationships that matter the most to you. It doesn't mean that you're mean, cruel, or insensitive to all the others. It's just that we also have a survival instinct inside of us that tells us how we get paid. How are we earning money? How are we making sure we're not losing some of our bigger clients? And we're always sort of cognizant to that. So it doesn't make you a bad human being that you're conscientious of the way that you earn money because that is your livelihood. That is your responsibility. Remember, one of our tenets at the Perfect RA, our pursuit for perfection, our pursuit to make us a better and better registered investment advisory firm is that we are profitable. And when I talk to people about this, you have two camps that are like, hell yeah, I want to be super, super profitable. I want to make millions of dollars. And then you have more the philanthropic group that is like, it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about the humans. Of course it should be about the humans, but it also is about the money because the money is responsible for the humans. You have a financial responsibility to be the steward of your organization. You have a financial responsibility to be profitable for your survival, for the people that you employ, and for your clients, because it does them no good if you're not going to be in business in the next couple of years because you are on the verge of bankruptcy and have leveraged your entire practice. So if you have a few thousand clients, you're not servicing them because you're paying attention to the ones that you're earning money from. And that bottom tier, you're just there if they need something, if something pops up. So you're not really delivering value to them. So when we talk about the cadence, when we started Shalansky & Associates, our RIA up in Anchorage, Alaska, we were on a quarterly basis. We would meet with clients every single quarter. That's how we did our billing. Our parents, Floyd and Rosa, Micah and I's mom and dad, were really progressive at the time. In the 80s, they charged financial planning fees and they charged asset under management fees. Today, that's a little bit more common, but in the 80s, it was really, really uncommon. But my parents really wanted to wrap their heads around the entire financial picture, not just the investments. And if you're going to put that much work, because the investments, they do take work. However, the financial planning takes a significant amount of more work up front. And so my father found a way that he says, hey, I'm going to charge you 2 fees, and this is what our structure is going to be. And so we would meet with clients on a quarterly basis. Now, about 12 years ago, that kind of shifted. The internet became more and more popular around 1996, with the introduction of everyone getting email accounts. And so even though it had been around for decades, it became more mainstream at that time. Our father was always super technology savvy. He was always looking forward about how we could liberate it. He was one of the very first that had a Zach from Saved by the Bell cell phones. It was huge, right? And people are like, oh, now you're always leashed to the office. And he's like, what are you talking about? This is my freedom. This means that I could be going out on a boat dive and I can spend the morning working and talking to clients and making sure that I'm there for them if I have an emergency, and then go do the things with my family when I don't. And so as we built our practice, this became really paramount for us, is that we are incredibly hard workers. However, we are also very family oriented, and we will not sacrifice the ability to spend time with each other for just the sake of earning $1. Like, we're very cognizant that it has to be both. We work really, really hard so that we can be together as a family and do these things. As the internet became more and more robust, what we did find out is that as people went more and more paperless, that clients weren't necessarily, they didn't need to meet with you every quarter. And if you were meeting with them every quarter, sometimes you ended up being like, what are we going to talk about? We just talked about something 3 months ago. I just saw these clients. What new could have possibly happened in their lives from quarter to quarter? And it started to get into this tone in which we were like, we've got to talk to them about something, because we don't. And this is where we invented Surge. So a few decades ago, as we were talking about Surge, and we had always been kind of doing Surge from a Dan Sullivan perspective, where you would have focus days, buffer days, and strategic days. And then it kind of adapted towards my mom and dad's flight schedules and when they wanted to be traveling. And so we would group and cluster these appointments together. But then as we continued to finesse this, we just got more and more focused, and we got more and more disciplined about how we could do this. So a couple decades ago, we started doing Surge in the formation that we have now. And by the way, we're always finessing this. So what Surge is that it's a time block period of time in which you are seeing all of your clients. And during that time, you're delivering 1 to 2 value adds during that appointment. And those value adds, that's the meeting agenda. That's what you're going to talk about. You're not always going to be focused on their investment portfolio or their statements. Instead, you're going to be looking, and this is novel, at all areas of their financial plan. And on a quarterly basis, we are delivering some type of value add to that particular client. Now, a couple of our value adds, such as our buckets and guardrail report, that is almost always delivered in the client meeting, because the client loves having it, right? And how much money do I have when I start taking distributions? Where are they coming from? How much money can I take out of my portfolio without jeopardizing it? And if the market drops below a certain level, what cuts do I need to make? Do I need to reduce my distributions? So we almost always have the buckets report inside of our client meeting prep notes. But then the rest rest of our value adds are going to rotate. And we've got several. And just to answer a lot of questions I get about value adds, we always try to make them one page if possible. Some of our value adds are, we do a 1099 letter, we do a Roth conversion projection, we do tax projections, we do a net worth report, we do estate planning report, and then we do a beneficiary report. So we've got a couple of others, but those are the ones that come to the top of mind right now. And we will recycle those every couple of years. And the reason that we recycle them, in fact, we're just ending up a surge here where we just presented for the very first time a new value add that Micah and I had been working with our developer on, which was the estate planning. The estate planning went in hand with beneficiary designations, but it was a little bit different. I'm going to tell you one of the reasons that we don't give our value adds to the Perfect RIA Nation until we have gone through them 1 to 2 surge cycles. And that's at Shalansky & Associates as well as Jarvis Financial. Why? Because we don't know how they're going to land. And we also don't know what tweaks we need to make to that value add because it didn't make sense to the client. So here at the Perfect RIA, we offer 2 different coaching programs. We've got Backstage Pass. That's your gym membership, right? All the equipment's there, but you got to do the work. You got to come in, figure it out for yourself. And then we also have Invictus. And Invictus is where we take your hand and we say, nope, you need to follow the schedule. What is your plan? We go through all the business planning and development. We call it our mountain map. And then we take you to wherever you want to be and tell you what you have to get done. And Matthew Jarvis and Micah Shalansky spearhead that with Tracy Ottinger here at the Perfect RIA. If you're interested in that, and we get that all of the time, we do not have an open door policy. What does that mean? That means we don't just accept new members all of the time because we want to make sure that we too are delivering value to you. So we limit the number of memberships that we have available to people. But if you want to know how to get on that waiting list, please email us at lifestyle@perfectria.com and just say membership questions. We'll get that over to Tracy. She'll have a conversation with you, kind of guide you. So as we go through this, we want to make sure that we're testing all of this before we turn it over to people at the Perfect RIA and part of our membership programs. So that way we've made the tweaks, made the adjustment. Does that mean that they are absolutely picture perfect? No, but that means that we did get to beta test it onto a large group before you try to deliver it to your clients. Now, here's why it's so gosh darn important to practice value adds. So we have our surge cycles. And so for those of you that don't know our surge cycles or you're thinking about implementing surge in your own office, do not reinvent the wheel. Do not sit there with the calendar rolled out and going, gosh, when should I surge? When I surge, you surge, we surge. Surge at the same damn time. Why? Because these dates work for the client. They work for the client. So I'm going to share with you the surge schedules that we have at Shalansky & Associates, and they mirror those Matthew Jarvis has gotten on board with most of ours as well. So we're surging at the exact same time. At Shalansky & Associates, we have an enterprise office. What does that mean? We have 5 to 6 different financial advisors. So we have a bigger surge than Matthew Jarvis. Matthew Jarvis is a 2 practitioner, if you will, practice. What does that mean? He's got Matthew Jarvis, and then he has also a protege financial advisor. And so their surge is a little bit smaller than ours. Because we have a bigger number of clients. He has a fewer clients on his. So no matter if you're solo or if it's just you and your partner, or if you're a big enterprise office, these dates work. They've been finessed to make sense for the client. And that is when you should schedule things, not when it makes sense for you, not when you don't, I've got cross-country track meets that week, or my wife likes to travel during that time, so I don't want to surge then. No, you need to really sculpt your life, your vocation around your avocations. And that means that make the money that you need to make today so that you can go do the things that you want to do outside of surge. So we surge at Shalansky & Associates and Jarvis Financial. We surge from March to mid-April. So about March 1st, we'll kick off our surge. Our spring surge, we do a team retreat. So we've got hybrid employees from across the country. We'll bring everyone together up here in Anchorage, Alaska. And that's our battle cry. It's our rally. We're about to put on our face paint and go into surge. And surge can be very, very excruciating on not just on the financial advisor, but also on the team member, because when we're outside of surge, it's a little bit more lackadaisical. You got a little bit more freedom, a lot more flexibility. But during surge cycles, it's game day. There's no time off. There's no drama. You have to absolutely bring your best, and you have to bring it for the next 6 weeks. And so making sure that you're staying reinvigorated during that entire time is super important. So March 1st to mid-April. Why does this work? Why do we choose March and April? Because it's tax time. It's tax time. And what are clients doing? They're getting all of their information together for their CPA. And so they are already in motion of gathering their financial information and logging into systems and getting statements and going over things because they're not sure what all their CPA needs. So this is a beautiful time for us as financial advisors to sneak in our laundry list and say, hey, by the way, as you're gathering this information, here's what we need too. And so we'll get a lot of their tax prep information from them at that time. But then we'll ask them for social security statements, and they'll get on the phone and they'll update their username and passcode. They'll get the new statements. They'll send it to us. We'll ask them for their mortgage information. We'll ask them for pay stubs. We'll ask them for everything in which we have plotted on our course to do a value add for the rest of the year. So Floyd, Micah, Jamie, Matt, we sit down the year before and we say, okay, here's our surge schedule. So our surge schedule is always decided a year in advance. And then also we go through what are the value adds that we are going to deliver every single quarter. And we do it on a quarterly basis with clients. I love a value add to go out. If I'm not meeting with the client, I love the value add to go out 2 weeks before they get their statements. Why? Reinforcing value about what they're paying for in our services. And it also helps the client know that even though we're not meeting quarterly, that because we do our surge a little bit different, and we'll go through the rest of those dates, but we do not meet with clients on a quarterly basis. However, we are looking at things quarterly from a team and a financial planning perspective. So we send out that value add. They know that, hey, we're still at the helm. We're still in the background working while you're out there living your best life. And so we'll go mid-March to mid-April and we'll gather all of the information that we may need to do a project around that summer to be able to present a value add that fall or even that next year. It's a great time to get information. Now, our summer we call them mini surges, and mini surges are 3 to 5 days where we've clustered on the calendar. We normally do this the first week of every month outside of our big surges. Our big surges are the fall and then again in the spring. And so we'll do these mini surges because this is a great placeholder in which it gives chance for clients that you just recently onboarded. And of course, you need more meetings right up front when somebody just joins your practice. And then it also gives us a time to meet with prospects. So we're hitting our growth goals. And then clients have things that come up. Clients have things that come up and they need a one-off meeting. This gives our team a space that we could say, great, let's get you in on this date and this time. Now, there's a particular way when a client calls that we make sure that they know what their availability is. And we don't tell them how much time we're blocked out for. What we'll say is, hey, Sue, thanks so much for calling. Yes, let's get you in on Micah's calendar right away. I see he has May 15th at 9 a.m. open. That's it. May 15th and 9 a.m. open. And Sue says, you know what, that doesn't work for me. I say, great, well, my next availability is going to be, June 11th at 3 p.m. Does that work for you? And so think of it like when you call a doctor's office. They don't tell you where the doctor's off to most of the time. They don't tell you where the doctor is, if he's in surgery or all these different things. They just say, this is my availability. This is when we can get you in. Does this work? Yes or no? And then you play the calendar game back and forth. And on Calendly, you can do the same thing. You can block out the times and then have clients pick their own. And then we go into our fall surge. Our fall surge is going to be mid-October to mid-November. Now, why did we choose mid-October to mid-November? Because it's right before the holidays. And it's also immediately after kids are back in school. Parents and grandparents are back in routine of getting kids to bed on time, going through homework, extracurricular, what does the sports schedule look like, etc. So we go into October and people are in better routine. They're in a better cadence for themselves and their families. And they're also trying to get a lot of year-end information done, particularly if you work with small businesses. So mid-October to mid-November, before everyone gets together for the holidays, is a great time. What I love to deliver on a value add, and this is what we did this last surge here, is we tried out our estate planning value add. Now, this was a great value add to run through our office, and it reinforces why we do not give it over to the Perfect RA Nation immediately. Instead, we need to take it through a few testing schedules. So the estate planning value add differs from our beneficiary report. The beneficiary report says, this is my primary beneficiary, this is the percentage of my estate that they're going to get, and this is the dollar amount that means. Now, why do we put the dollar amount? Because when you have 3 kids and, they're sort of all under the age of 25 and coming into their adulthood, and you say, yeah, I'm going to leave a third, and you give everyone a third of your estate, and you're like, yeah, that's fair, that's equal, no problem. And then we say, Bob and Sue, that's great. So just to confirm, you're good with giving Tony $2.5 million. Oh, whoa, hold on a second. No. I'm not okay with that. All right, great. Now we have a more intricate conversation about whether or not they need to have a trust in place. And so we put the dollar amount because all of a sudden percentages mean marshmallows. They don't mean anything to us. But when we see these dollar amounts, we're like, holy cow, hold on. And I love to ask a client, Floyd and I always say Bob and Sue because all of our clients are named Bob and Sue. And we say, Bob and Sue, that's great. I don't know what I would have done or what Tony would have done with $2.5 million at age 18, but I got a good guess what I would have done. And then everyone kind of laughs and we talk about cars and vacations and experiences and things like that. And it is a great reality check that percentage is going to equal a dollar amount for someone. And it gives them an opportunity to now have a bigger conversation about their estate planning. So this surge, what we did was we delivered estate planning value add. Now, different from the beneficiary report, which shows your primary contingent, like I said, this one went over the 4 areas of financial or estate planning that we want the client to make sure that they have on file. So we always want to make sure that they have an advanced medical healthcare directive. This used to be called a living will. It is not a living will. So if you have clients that are still referring to it as a living will, they might have a living will. So you want to pull that document out and make sure that it's an advanced medical healthcare directive. And that appoints an agent and a contingent agent. And that is the person that can make your medical decisions if you're incapacitated and can no longer make them, or is in charge, this is my favorite part, executing the decisions you have already made. So the Advanced Medical Healthcare Directive allows you as a person in your right mind, well-being, to make certain decisions. Do you want life support? If you're pregnant, whose life matters more, the child or yours? It's all these complicated things that you don't want to put the burden on a loved one to have to figure out. So instead, you're making those decisions and they get to honor your decisions and they get to be in confidence of knowing that they're doing what you wanted. The worst room to be in a hospital is the family waiting room, where some unexpected emergency has happened and adult children are now fighting over what mom or dad would have wanted. I mean, these create the kind of family rifts that are unsalvageable. People don't come back from these type of fights. And so making sure that your clients have this on file. And then also, here's the kicker to this one, make sure whoever you appointed as that agent knows that they are the agent and has a copy of this document should anything happen to you. I go one step further with my clients. I like this to be on record at our office. I want it on the nearest hospital to their house. And then I also want it with their primary care physician if they have one. The second document is a durable power of attorney. And a durable power of attorney says, hey, I'm incapacitated, because a general power of attorney stops at incapacitation. A durable lasts beyond incapacitation. So it says I'm incapacitated and I give this agent or this contingent agent the authority to act in my behalf in these financial and legal matters. Now, in my world, those 2 documents are the most powerful documents that you will ever sign in your entire life. Because when you give a durable power of attorney appointing someone, you're giving them a blank check to all of your assets. They can buy real estate, they can sell real estate, they can use brokerage funds, they can distribute, convert, transfer. all of it. So whoever you're willing to sign a blank check to, if you're not in your own mind or you're incapacitated in some area. So when you talk about it with the durable power of attorney, this is when you really get into the nitty gritty of who do I trust? Now, I like to piggyback this on with every custodian has a trusted contact person. And so I love to piggyback that on with getting the trusted contact person updated. A trusted contact person is different than a durable power of attorney because it doesn't give you any power. It just means, hey, we can't get a hold of Bob and Sue. Do you know where they're at? Did something happen? What process should we start implementing? So I like those two forms. Why I think it's also the most important is not only are you giving someone a blank check, but here's hoping you wake up and you're waking up to the kind of life that you want to continue living and that you're not financially destitute because somebody made all the wrong financial decisions for you while you were incapacitated. All right, the next two documents out of the four. So we have the Advanced Medical Healthcare Directive, then we have the Durable Power of Attorney, and then it's your last will and testament. Most clients are familiar with the last will and testament. However, the majority of clients are not comfortable enough to understand the difference between a last will and testament and a trust. So one of the basics, just super basic, because we're not attorneys and we don't get into the nitty gritty of the legal proceedings with clients on this one. But instead we'll say, hey, listen, if you have, we can talk to you about how things operationally work. But if you need legal advice, we're going to bring in an estate planning attorney. They're going to come into our office and we're going to meet and go over all this. But operationally, the biggest difference between a will and a trust is I like to tell clients a will appoints a person and says, I'm gone, you deal with it. And so now you have your personal representative. That's the person that tidies up your estate after your passing, etc. Now, what a will does not allow you to do, and this is where I show the client the difference, is to control, protect, or incentivize. So when a client asks me, do you think I need a trust? I don't feel I have that big of an estate, right? Because the word itself, estate, makes us conjure up images of being in like London or Scotland, and there's rolling hills and castles and big mansions and things like that. And you're like, no. An estate doesn't mean that. It just means, what happens to all of your existing assets after you pass. So they'll ask me, Jamie, do you think I need a trust? And I say, the only reason you would need a trust is if you want to control, protect, or incentivize. What does that mean? Control. I've got minor children and I'm sure as hell not going to let them have access to all of these assets. I've got a blended situation and I don't want my ex-wife, who's the mother of my children, to blow through this entire inheritance for the kids. So are there some control constraints? Do we have a drug problem? Do we have a spending problem? Do we have divorce issues or concerns about children inheriting money and your assets becoming part of a divorce? So anytime we want to have some element of control on how they can use the finances or how the finances work, the trust might be appropriate. And you can get pretty darn creative with trust language too. All right, then the second reason is to protect. Do we have a special needs situation? And even if they don't have special needs kids today, we live here in Alaska and a lot of people play hockey. You get a hockey puck to the face and, a little bit of brain damage because not everyone wears a helmet all the time could do a significant impact. All of a sudden now we've got complicated situations. So do I need to protect my beneficiaries that if they become incapacitated or if they have some type of disability in the future, now have I cut them off from some type of state aid? And so I want to be real cognizant about that. And I put in protection language, even if everyone is alive, well, and doing good, because God forbid a car accident or something happens in the future that leaves somebody that I'm leaving assets to. If they are disabled, I don't want to cut them off from certain healthcare or operational things that would be a benefit for them for their lifetime. So being really, really aware of how protections in trust work is your responsibility as a financial advisor. All right, the third reason that I might recommend a trust for you is if you want to incentivize. And I tell all my clients, money is emotional, right? There's an exchange of energy. And so with that said, is there some type of value around money that you want to make sure your kids, your grandkids, your beneficiaries continue to do? Now, what is the number one incentive that most people want to leave for their kids or especially their grandkids? Education. I want my kids to be educated. I want them to go on. It doesn't have to mean collegiate level, endowments for them to go to school, but it does mean that if they want to go to a trade school or if they want to advance themselves, I want to leave them money to do that. I want to leave them money to put a down payment on their first home. I want to leave them money so that they can be philanthropically minded. So whatever those reasons are, again, we can get super creative. One of my favorite things to do inside of a trust is to incentivize kids that are university bound, that they take out loans for their education. Why? Because you can finance education, you can't finance retirement. And then if you go through school, you get these loans, you graduate with your bachelor's, fantastic. We'll help you pay off that student loan either entirely or we'll make matching payments, whatever the value is for the client that wants to put this on their kids and grandkids. But if you spend more time in the frat house than you do the library, guess what? You're graduating with a ton of debt. Pay it off, have fun. And so that allows us to have those sort of incentivizing actions inside of the trust that make you take this money seriously. Because when we get windfall money as beneficiaries, it's gone. I mean, statistically, you can look at the heritage calculations on this, that I think it's 18 months, regardless of what age you inherit a windfall, it's gone in 18 months. So working with financial advisors, making sure that we have that language in there. And by the way, when we go into our December mini surge, this is going to be all family meetings. This is going to be our clients, mom and dad, bringing their adult children in because they're here for the holidays. And we're going to go over all of this stuff. Now, why are we doing that? One, check marks it for mom and dad, who are our clients. Now they feel at peace that they have their affairs in order, everything's good. And also, second of all, tells the kids who to go talk to if something happens. And we're making that type of relationship. And yes, we are definitely hoping to keep most of those relationships. Now, sometimes we really like the client, but we won't work with their kids. So when that relationship concludes, we're done. But sometimes we really like the entire family. And now we've got multi-generation. In our office, we call these legacy clients. And so if you are the adult child of one of our existing clients, you're a legacy client. And that is really powerful work for us. We bring them on every single year. And it's a great meeting when we have a legacy appointment come in because they say, Mom and Dad have talked about you guys for the last few decades. I feel like I already know you. So it's a powerful meeting. So on this value add, we are going through and we're showing everyone for his and her. So we separate, and it doesn't matter her, his, her, whatever you've got. We separate it by colors. We distinguish it by colors. And so normally the female is pink and the male is blue. And so on the form makes it very, very easy for their eyes to drop to who's got what in order. And we'll show them, we'll say, hey, listen, yes, we do have an advanced medical health care on file. We'll go through all four of the documents. And we'll say, yes, we have it on file, or no, we don't. And if the client says, actually, I did have one because when I had that cancer scare last year before I started the chemotherapy or whatever it was, the hospital made me do it. Great, Mr. and Mrs. Client, that's wonderful. I'm so glad. I knew you would take care of this. However, I'm such a control freak. I don't have that document. And if I don't put my eyes on it, I don't believe that it exists. So would you just help me out and send me a copy of it and I'll just check it off and put it on this form? And guess what? Clients are going to send you that information because they don't like the big red X showing up on their form that they have something incomplete. They associate this with their financial plan and they want to make sure they've got all green and not red X's on that form. And we go through all of the documents. Now, this is a dynamic form. So this is one of the reasons that we flushed it through our Schlansky & Associates RIA clients. Over 500 people got this form before we gave it out to anyone in the nation. Why? Because here's a few things that we discovered when we did this. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. So we will have, notes where maybe a financial advisor or a team member checked marked and said, yes, that was done, or yes, we have a copy of the trust. But guess what? It's unexecuted. There's no signature. We don't have any signatures. And so we will go back to the attorney if we have an LOA, a letter of authorization on file, and we will look for an executed copy. And then the attorney will come back and say, you know what? We did all the drafting. They have everything, but they never came by our office to sign it. This happens frequently. This is not just our clients. These are your clients too. This is not an Alaska thing. This is a human being thing. And also remember, half of our clients don't live in the state of Alaska. We service everyone in the United States. So this is happening to us. It is happening to you too. So we trust but verify. Say, you know what? You did a lot of great work. I know you got that binder from your attorney. Looks like nothing got signed. And the clients will laugh and go, oh my goodness, we got so busy. We had this going on. I can't believe we didn't sign that. Thank you so much. And right now, what are they doing? Are they thanking the attorney or are they thanking us? No, they're thanking us. They're not thanking the attorney that just did all the work, got paid their fees, and didn't actually have the documents executed. They are so grateful to us for having put a second set of eyes on that. And then we want to go into the dynamic part of it, because now we've got 4 documents and 3 of those 4 could be independent and one is shared. What does that mean? That means for every heartbeat, so a Bob has a durable power of attorney, advanced medical healthcare directive, and a last will and testament. Sue also has those 3 documents because they are related to her heartbeat. They are individual specific. But the trust could be shared. And so we've got this dynamic information on there. You have this in place, you have this in place, you both don't have this in place. And so we go through all of that. Now, second reason that, and this is what drives me nuts, this is why you absolutely have to practice the week before surge and you're rolling out a value add. Even if it is a value add that you have already delivered to your clients, you have to practice it, because here's what we discovered 4 days into delivering. And if it hadn't been for a joint meeting, we wouldn't have discovered this. But we started printing down all the estate planning value adds, and we do 1-page financial plans in our office. And so all of our financial advisors had gone into their client records in Infinity, the custom CRM my brother Micah Shalansky and I built, and they put down the primary and contingent. However, 2 of the CFPs in our office thought that primary was the first level of beneficiaries. So on the trust information, we always say husband and wife, you both are trustees. If something happens to you, Bob, then Sue's the trustee. And if something happens to Sue, then Bob is the trustee. And then it goes into the next layer. So sometimes, and this is where semantics matter. This is where, you have primary beneficiaries, contingent. You have primary agents, secondary agents. Then you have trustees and beneficiaries, and understanding which words mean what, because the CFPs in our office, they put down in the primary area who that first beneficiary was. They did not put down the husband and wife trustee because they were trustees and not beneficiaries of those trusts. And so when you delivered a client meeting, all of a sudden now the client goes, whoa, hold on a second. Bob, if you die, this is going to our son. Like I don't get all of this. Like I'm not in control. Now I have to go to the kids to ask for money. And it was like, whoa, no. That's not actually how it worked at all. So Bob doesn't probably need our help getting in trouble. But because nobody had practiced that, we did not see it because everyone is different. So you might have gone through, you might have checked the first couple of ones and been like, yep, they're good, they're simple, no problem. And maybe those first couple of ones didn't have a trust. So you were only dealing with primary and contingent. But all of a sudden, now we added a layer of complexity to it. And so all of the sudden you're presenting that and you're creating a backtracking situation in your office that you don't want to have happen in a client meeting. You don't want them to come out more flustered, more upset than they were going into this. You don't want to create confusion around what happens if one of them dies, especially if your book of business is around retiree. Hell, even if they're younger people, even if you're working with a 30 to 40-year-old demographic, the greatest threat to a couple is the loss of others' income. And so now if we've created this layer of confusion of saying, hold on, who's in control of my assets if it's not me? So Bob, you die, I have to go to the kids, or all this goes to the kids. Where's my money? Am I now destitute? So making sure that before you run this out and before you put it into your CRM, make sure you have a common language. Make sure you take time. And this is something I never thought of going through it with the financial advisors, because for 2/3 of us in the office, this was common language. This was common sense for us. We all knew this because in the meetings, we would always say, hey, Bob, if you predecease Sue, it goes, this is how it works. So we'll cross our index fingers together. We always say that the 2 of you are the primaries. You inherit all of the assets. Now, after that, we go into the contingents, and the contingents are the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries could be the kids. It could be charities. It could be nieces and nephews. It could be mom and dads, whatever this is. And so the importance of being able to practice practice those, every single one of them. So one of the things that Floyd, Mike, and I do is when we wrap up during the surge week, we will spend Saturday and Sunday. We will make sure we go through the entire week, the upcoming week surge packets, and we will look at every single person's information. And when you're looking at it and practicing how you're going to present it to them. Because remember, when you're in that conference room and you're sliding things across the table, it's upside down. You're sliding it upside down so that the client can view it. So how comfortable are you with all of those things? And then if you show on your report, oh, I don't have a last will and testament, I don't have a trust, looks like this estate planning is undone, but the client says, hey, wait a minute. We met with the attorney here in your office and we did that 2 years ago. I thought you already had copies of it. And you say, you know what? Maybe we do. So trust but verify. So the financial advisor is going back and saying, did we get a copy of that? If we didn't get a copy of it, then we're saying, I know that you met with the client. You guys remember that we brought the attorney in about 2 years ago. You guys sat down. I know that you had several meetings after that one with the attorney. You probably have most of this done. However, I never got a copy of it. Would you be so kind to forward all of this over to us? And then they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, no problem. And so making sure that you are prepared before those comments come up. Because if you create this confusion, the appointment, you didn't deliver value. Instead, you delivered uncertainty. And now clients are confused, they're uncertain, they're nervous, right? They feel something was undone. And just like how we get credit for bringing things up, like, hey, I see that you didn't execute these documents. We get the credit for that, not the attorney. We do as financial advisors. But we can also get the blame if we don't have our ducks in a row. If we're bringing up something that was already done and we look sloppy, we look like we don't have it together. We look like we didn't actually put our physical eyes on the client's information ahead of that meeting. So even though value adds can be recycled every couple of years, doesn't exempt you from the responsibility of having to look them over. You have to practice them every single time. So during mid-surge, we went to our financial advisors and we said, hey, listen, this weekend, every single one of you should be pulling those out and practicing. Now, maybe you don't have Friday appointments and you can do this on a Friday instead of a Saturday, Sunday. I have a very low tolerance for people that are like, oh, but that's working on Saturday and Sunday, or, oh, that's putting in X amount of hours and I'm only supposed to work 40 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. I have very, very low tolerance for that because that's normally the same people that tell me how much money they want to make and they want to go earn $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, etc. But if you have those lofty goals, you better be also committed to the grind and energy and effort it takes to go achieve those because they go hand in hand. You can't punch in and punch out for 40 hours and go make millions of dollars. It's not going to happen. So you got to put in the grind. You have to put in the time. And if you didn't get your done ahead of surge and go over all of this stuff for surge, I don't care if you're doing it on Saturday or Sunday. I don't care because I still do it. I still want to make sure that I'm prepared. And the more that you prepare yourself for those meetings, the faster and faster you'll get at this because then you'll start quickly going through things and you'll be like, yep, pass the straight face test. Yes, 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 yes. Whoop, red flag. And you will always find a red flag. Maybe an annuity is missing off of the buckets report. Those tend to tail off. Maybe we don't have some of the estate planning documents done. Maybe I don't have a tax return for last year. And they were supposed to get it to us, but they never got it done. And now it's October, is going into November, and I still don't have the tax return. So what are those red flags? How are we preparing ourselves so that we can deliver absolute value in that client meeting each and every time? And that comes from practicing. Practice, practice, practice. The best people I know, the highest performers I know are going through it over and over and over again. Because when you practice that frequently, that often, when you are so intricately involved in delivering these value adds, when you get in that conference room, no amount of nervous energy is going to throw you off because your brain is lazy. It wants to take the easiest course of action possible. And so if you've already practiced all this material, your brain, regardless of what's going on with the rest of your body, is going to start pulling that information. It does not want to overthink. You have to challenge it to overthink. It wants to take the easiest path possible, and that's going to regurgitate anything that you practiced is going to come out. TPR Nation, this was a super long conversation that we had today about about the importance of practicing value adds. I shared with you several key things. And so we've got tons of action items inside of here. I won't belabor you with stripping all of them out, but here's the most important. 1, surge. When I surge, you surge, we surge. Choose our surge schedule. It works for your clients. It works for your clients. We have already done the grunt work of testing it. If you think surge is bogus or lazy, inflexible, all the nasty things that people call it, they're idiots. Don't be one of them. Surge works, and it works great for clients. Second of all, value adds. Every single quarter, what are you delivering to that client? Don't reinvent the wheel again here. There's already great value adds, and don't diminish the low-hanging fruit. These should be really uncomplicated 1 to 2 pieces of paper that clients understand and mean something to them. Super important. Also, don't forget that you get to recycle those value adds every couple of years because they're still important every couple of years. You still have to check on them every couple of years and make sure that the information is accurate and the client doesn't want to make any changes. The third action item that I'm going to leave you with, and this is the most important, and don't diminish it because you're going to hear it and you're going to go, yeah. But it is the most critical, and it's the difference between delivering massive value in a meeting and being super embarrassed and feeling uncomfortable in a meeting. And that is practicing the value adds. Put your eyes on them before you deliver them. Go through them as if they were the client. Read every line. Draw your attention. Does it make sense? Is it accurate? You'll be amazed at how much information that you accidentally stored in your brain. So when you see a client that doesn't have their estate planning done, you'll go, hold on a second. I remember a few years ago, we brought the attorney in, we were working with them, we had email back and forth about different, accounts that we want to leave beneficiaries for. This can't be right. You will pull that from the archives of your brain and be able to go follow up in a way that delivers a tremendous amount of value to the clients. Super important. Everything that we do is about delivering massive value to clients because this matters. It matters. It matters to them during their working lives, and it sure as hell matters when one of them predeceases the other. What we do is powerful, and we get to do this as a job. This is our job. We get to work in finance and make a meaningful impact in people's lives every single day. And that is something that is beautiful and should not be taken for granted by you or anyone else on the team. This work is meaningful. It is powerful, and it can change multiple generations of lives after we get done, if we take the time to do it right. TPR Nation, this is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father.